We're going to be learning to find percent increase and decrease. Percents can be used to describe a change. Percent change is the ratio of the amount of change to the original amount. The setup looks like this. Percent change equals amount of change over original amount. Percent increase describes how much the original amount increases. Percent decreases describes how much the original amount decreases. So, here's your first example. Find the percent increase or decrease from 16 to 12. The first thing we do is identify, is this an increase or a decrease? Well, from 16 to 12 is a decrease. So, when we decrease, we need to make sure that we identify that we decreased. When we increase, we have to make sure we identify that we increased. You have to know which one it was. First, we're going to find the amount of change. 16 minus 12 equals 4. Now we're going to set up our ratio. Remember, percent of change equals the amount of change, which is 4, over the original amount, which was 16. So our ratio is 4 to 16. Now remember, we want the percent of change, so we got to change this to a percent. Find the decimal, top in, bottom out if you don't know, and then move 2 places right, and you have your percent. You have to make sure that you write whether it was an increase or decrease. You can't just say it's 25%. You have to tell the world from 16 to 12 is a 25% decrease. For your first check it out example, you're going to be finding the percent increase or decrease from 15 to 20. So hit pause, and I want you to try this one on your own. Okay, from 15 to 20 is a percent increase. That's the first thing you need to identify. We do increase. Find the amount of change. 20 minus 15 is 5. You don't have to start 15 minus 20 and get negative 5. You don't need to do that, because when you say that it's an increase, everybody knows that it's an increase. Don't confuse yourself with negatives and positives. So first, find the amount of change. We've changed by 5. Then you're going to set up your ratio. Do you remember the format? The format was amount of change over the original amount. So 5 to 15. The amount of change to the original amount, 5 to 15. Find the decimal. 5 divided by 15 is 0.3 repeating. When you write it as a percent, move 2 places left. 33.3% repeating. Now remember, you cannot leave it as a percent. You have to say from 15 to 20 is a 33 and a third percent increase. You have to say that. So here's an additional example. We're going to be working real-life applications. When Jim was exercising, his heart rate went from 70 beats per minute to 98 beats per minute. What was the percent increase? So we already know this was a percent increase. It tells us. So we're going to find the amount of change. 98 minus 70 is 28. So we went up 28 points, 28 beats. You don't have to worry about the think part. Just set up your ratio. The amount of increase was 28, and our original beats per minute was 70. Amount of increase over original amount. Make sure you remember that. You put your amount of increase over the original amount. That will equal the percent of change. We got to change it to a decimal and then a percent. So the decimal form is 4/10. Move 2 places to the right. 40%. So Jim's heart rate increased by 40% when he exercised. If you need to rewind through that example, just to make sure you got it, you can rewind. Otherwise, keep going. Here's your other example. In 1999, a certain stock was worth $1.25 a share. In 2002, the same stock was worth 85 cents a share. What was the percent decrease? So this is a little different. We have tons of numbers in here, some of which are decimals. So you need to know what they're looking for. It says, what was the percent decrease? They don't really care about the years. I'll tell you that. They don't care about the years. All they care about is the stock. and the stock went down. So we need to find the percent decrease. You're more than welcome to try this on your own first if you want to hit pause. Otherwise, keep going. First, we're going to find the amount of change. $1.25 minus 85 is 40 cents. Don't worry about the think. Set up the ratio. The amount of decrease over the original amount. The amount of decrease was 40 cents. The original amount was $1.25. Amount of decrease over original amount. The amount of change over the original amount. That equals the percent of change. Cannot say that enough. All you have to do at this point is change it to a decimal and a percent. So, change it to a decimal, top in, bottom out. You get 32 cents. And move the decimal place 2 places right. 32%. Don't forget to write whether it was 32% decrease or 32% increase. So the value of the stock decreased by 32%. Here's your check it out. You definitely need to practice this on your own. When Jeff was watching TV, the number of times his eyelids blinked went from 50 blinks per minute to 75 blinks per minute. What was the percent increase? Press pause. Press pause. Try this on your own. Okay, so the amount of change. 75 to 50 is a 25 blink change. Don't worry about the think. Just set up the ratio. Amount of change over the original amount. Amount of change over the original amount. The amount of change was 25. The original amount was 50. 25 to 50. Now, a lot of you can look at that and you know right away what the percent is. Some of you need to do top in, bottom out. You get 5/10. Move 2 places right, 50%. The blinking of Jeff's eyelids increased by 50% when he watched TV. So, here's an additional check it out. Remember the check it outs you have to do on your own before you continue on through the example. In 2000, a certain stock was worth $9 a share. In 2003, the same stock was worth $3.80 a share. What was the percent decrease to the nearest tenth? What was the percent decrease to the nearest tenth? So go ahead and hit pause and try this problem. Okay, first we're going to find the amount of change. Subtract to find the amount of change. $9 minus $3.80 is $5.20. Don't worry about the think. Just set up the ratio. Amount of change over original amount. That equals the percent of change. Amount of change over original amount equals the percent of change. So, the amount of change was $5.20. The original was $9. So, we put those one on top of the other, and we've got our ratio, but we want the percent of change. So, let's change this to a percent. Top in, bottom out. You'll get about 57 cents. 7 repeats. Move 2 places right, 57.7 repeating percent. The value of the stock decreased by about 57 and 8/10%. Do you see that the 7 rounded up to an 8? That's because on the end of that decimal is 0.7777777. To round it off, you have to round up. So it was 57 and 8/10%.